I wanted to jump on and show you how to finish your pumpkins that we started yesterday. Now, I set up the camera and got everything ready so that I could hold this in place to be able to show you the trick for doing the top of the stem. So as you can see, I finished yesterday. I brought the jute up from the bottom. This is what the bottom looks like. And I tied it to the rubber bands. And then I pulled it and sort of spaced it out to give the effect of the pumpkin. So now that I have that ready, I cut off the extra at the very top. And I left actually more than I normally do, but you're supposed to leave about an inch to an inch and a half. I've got about 2, I think, here. And then I cut another piece of the jute twine, and what I'm doing is I'm covering this, that is the cut off piece at the top. Now I started it, I just tied a simple basic knot. This is my end right here, and then I just wrapped around to cover that inside piece. But to get the top part, you have to go at an angle. So I wanted to have that and hold it to be able to show you so that you could see how I went all the way up to the top, and then see how I'm doing it at an angle back down so that I can cover that part. Otherwise, what happens is you don't have the top part covered, or it's going to start slipping off, because notice that I'm not gluing it, I'm just pulling the string so that it is all together. So now that I have that top part done, what I'm going to do is then come back around and start just wrapping. That's all it is. And I'm just wrapping tightly and bringing it back down so that I'm putting almost like a double layer on the stem, and you can see a little bit through, and that's okay, but you can also have some parts that are totally covered, and it'll give it a little bit of a different look. Now notice that this is a totally different piece of the jute string, and it is not the leftover pieces that I pulled up. These I'm leaving down. I'm just letting them hang down for right now. So I'm going to get down here to the bottom right now, and then I am going to tie this with the piece that I originally started with. So I had a little tiny piece sticking out that I had started with, and I'm just going to double knot it to give it a nice secure knot. Let me cut this off. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to make my tendrils. Now you know how pumpkins always have those little pieces, those tendrils, those curlicues that they use to hang on, the vine uses to hang on as it climbs and moves against a trellis or up whatever you are growing it against, or sometimes even if it's just on the ground, those little tendrils are used to anchor it to the grass or the other plants that it is growing over. Alright, so here is my bottom knot, and I'm going to just make sure it's nice and secure, and then cut this extra off. Now I could also turn it into a tendril if I want, or I can just leave it. So now I have my top part, which is my little stem, and then my bottom, there we go. So it's starting to come together and look nicely, right? And you can always sort of move that polyfill around as you get going and get it to where you want it to be. Now the last step, you're going to use a couple different things. You're going to need some aluminum foil. You're going to need Mod Podge. Now I like the hard coat for this simply because it will give a nice hard coat to the tendril and keep it and to hold its shape when it is dry. But you can use any Mod Podge that you have, and then a paintbrush, or you can use your fingers, and then you need either a pencil or something like this. I just grabbed this little mini pen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a tendril. Now I think that this part here, because it's starting to fray, I'm going to cut it off and make a nice clean cut. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is take my Mod Podge and I'm going to use the paintbrush to cover that string. But I don't want to get the Mod Podge on my pumpkin. So that's why I have the aluminum foil. I'm going to actually protect my pumpkin with the aluminum foil. Now you can use anything you want. The reason why I like the aluminum foil is because you can get it to hold the shape around the pumpkin, and then it's going to stay there. So that's why I like to use aluminum foil, but you could use plastic wrap, another piece of paper, whatever you want. The paper might stick, so just be careful with that. So what I'm going to do is use my paintbrush, and I am going to cover this jute twine and get it nice and covered all the way around. And you're going to do this for all 6 of them so that you have some nice little curlicues coming out. Once I get this completely covered, and yeah, you're going to get it on your hands, and that's alright. It washes off. And I'm going to pull this extra piece off. There we go. And now I have the whole thing covered. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap it around my pen so that I'm going to make a nice little curlicue. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's see if you can see it nice and clear. Get my camera too. There we go. Now the reason why I grabbed this little pen, I'm going to show you in a second, is because it has this lid. And I like, let me get it nice and tight here, I like to have the lid help hold it in place. So I'm going to now let this dry, but not completely, okay? You need to take it off at about, I don't know, maybe like 15-20 minutes, okay? So that it gives it enough time to start to dry, but yet it's not going to stick to your pen or pencil, whatever you're using. So as you can see, this is why I do it, because I like that it will hold that so that it'll curl the whole way down. Now you can just use a regular pencil and then tuck it on the bottom so that the end piece is going to sit under the pencil. That'll work too. Whatever you want, but you know, this is just a little trick that I have. So I'm going to let this sit for maybe 10-20 minutes, and then I'm going to very gently pull the pen right out and leave it, just like if you're making a curl with a curling iron. You pull it out on the bottom so that you're not unwrapping, but you're pulling it out. And then I will give it lots of time to be able to fully dry, because it won't be fully dry. You're just going to take it off the pen so it doesn't stick to it. Once you do that, you can add a little bit of the fall leaves if you want. I'm going to do 3 tendrils on this one, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and pull a couple of these apart so that it sort of makes it look like that corn silk, where you're going to take it and then I'll cut it a little bit shorter so it'll have a really neat effect too. And that's it. So leave this for 10-20 minutes, pull the pen out, and then do the next tendril and work your way around. Then once you are done, you add a leaf if you want, and your pumpkin is done. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. If you make one, take a picture, post it on my wall. I'd love to see it. Bye, everybody.